The Organization of American States meets at the Pan American Union in Washington to consider sanctions against Cuba. The meeting has been called at the request of Venezuela, major target of Castro terrorists. Last fall, 3 tons of Cuban arms were seized on a Venezuelan beach, proof positive, that country says, that Castro has been responsible for terror tactics in both Caracas and farm areas. Secretary of State Rusk brings a firm demand by the U.S. for sanctions that will prevent the export of Castroism, while Chile and Mexico oppose an economic boycott for the time being. Meanwhile, 8,000 Cuban exiles stage a march from the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial to urge the U.S. to act against the Cuban regime. At first, the demonstration is peaceful, and they obey orders not to force their way through police barricades to the meeting hall. As the last few delegates arrive for the critical conference, Latin American temperaments flare and hundreds move on the Pan American building. For a time, the police have their hands full. Briefly, the exiles get out of hand, but the police force them back, and the OAS delegates begin their meeting unaware of the commotion. With Mr. Rusk spearheading the drive, Colombia, Costa Rica, and Panama introduced the resolution that calls for a suspension of trade with Cuba, except for food and medicine, and a break in diplomatic and consular relations. The resolution calls for these sanctions to remain in effect until Cuba ceases to be a threat to peace and security. The adoption of the resolution will mark a new unity among American nations for their mutual protection.